So I'd love to hear in your perspective from running men's groups and also being a men's coach, how men can master their emotions. How do men build emotional intelligence? Because a lot of men are scared to share their emotions with anybody around them. There aren't that many tools out there for men to build their emotional intelligence. So how can a man become more emotionally intelligent? How can he become better expressing, communicating, understanding his emotions?
Yeah, it's a really great question. It's a massive, massive topic because there's so many
Yes.
factors that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest things I've learned through working with men, through coaching men, is that you cannot let go of that which you're not willing to feel. And for a lot of men, one of the easiest things to do is push things down, to suppress it, to not want to feel it, because certain emotions, you could say fear, anger, shame, guilt, sadness, they're uncomfortable. And what I see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
is that men will find many ways in order to avoid feeling the feeling. So I'll give you a specific example. My dad always comes back to my dad. My dad struggles with
Yes.
loneliness.
Always does. Always daddy issues, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It does. My dad struggles with loneliness. So instead of being
Yeah.
willing to feel the feeling and put himself feel the feeling and be able to put himself in a position to actually do something about it. And I don't mean fix it. I mean being willing to feel it, be with it, and start to inquire and ask questions of like, what's the reason I feel this way? What am I doing to actually cause this in some way? Because in some way, I've caused this. I'm always causing my emotions. And a lot of that is based on
Yeah.
how I'm perceiving my current reality. Now, that might seem like an out there world, but what my dad does is instead of feeling his loneliness and experiencing his loneliness, what he has a tendency to do is run away from it. And the way he runs away from it is he
Mm-hmm.
throws himself into his work. And this is true
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of men. And there is
Mm-hmm.
a good reason for that, because if you think about emotions, emotions are typically uncertain, uncomfortable, uneasy for a lot of men, especially some of the emotions that I mentioned. And that's an area of uncertainty.
Yes.
You might say that might be an area of pain. Whereas when we think about our work typically for a man is where we have competency, where we know
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing and we get a certain level of certainty. Some people
Mm-hmm.
actually meet their need for certainty by eating food because it gives them a lovely warm feeling. I
That's
remember
me.
when,
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And some people, if you're really British, then you probably not so many men in men's groups, but British people might make cups of tea. I remember I went through a stage where I was actually needing to get something done and I wanted to procrastinate. And so I used to have like 15, 16 cups of tea a day. And it was just simply to avoid doing the work because it was most uncomfortable. So I
Yeah.
used tea as a way of distracting myself from my emotions. And I
Or booze, drug, marijuana, you
booze,
name it, right?
drugs,
Yeah.
pornography,
Pornography,
women,
that's a big one in men's group. Yeah. Yeah. Women, chasing
absolutely,
women, sex. Yeah.
women, sex, prostitution. Women actually might use shopping. Some people might use social media. Social media is a big one in order to really distract
Yeah.
yourself from your reality. Now, I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but one thing I do know is that if you're going to run away from something, you're not going to be able to deal with it. And
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to overcome that. And I think that the first thing I'm going to give you is that emotions, we cannot let go of that which we're not willing to feel. So, first one, we must be
Mm-hmm.
willing to feel it. Second thing I'm going to give you is I think it's really important that men understand that your emotions are like a GPS. They're like a guide. They will tell you what's going on with you. And that is really valuable information that you can actually use. So if I feel scared, if I feel into that, I can start to inquire and say, well, what's the reason I'm scared? What's causing this? What am I thinking about? What am I feeling anxious about? What am I catastrophizing about is going to happen in the future, which we see all of the time in men's group when people have some kind of anxiety. They're thinking about all the things that could happen. And what do they say about fear? Future events appearing real, or as I like to say, fuck everything and run, because that's the way it feels.
Right? That's better. Fuck everything and run. That's great.
So be willing to feel your emotions, but also the second point I made is use them as a GPS. I think if I was to give one solid tip on getting started with emotions, is the first thing I'd say is just label them. Just be willing to say it. And you will notice that when you speak out, that's why men's groups is so powerful. When you speak out and you say, I feel guilty, I feel shame, I feel scared, I feel angry,
anxious, tired.
Exactly. And so labeling your experience and expressing it is really powerful, because I think there's two things that people typically do. They suppress it. They might suppress it. They're like, get down there, get down there, don't want to feel it. And that shows up by distraction, work, alcohol, drugs, sex, porn. That's a form of suppression, avoidance. But the other side of that is expression. So you suppress or you express. And when people express, how they feel, something changes. It's like this heavy feeling in their body all of a sudden feels lighter.